before getting started with the actual programming, so just we saw in a basic hello world how to write a program file, compile it both through the command line and as well as the Eclipse. Now let's see how to deal with basic programming. So before even learning any programming language commands or statements, first we need to know how to declare the variables there. It could be any language, it could be C, C++, or Java, or even Pig, Hive, or anything, right? So we need to know how to declare variables there. And in order to declare variables, you need to know the data types, right? So each variable, what is the data type of it? Whether it is an integer, whether it is a string, or a float, double, what is its data type? Okay. So here the data types supported by Scala are pretty much all came from the Java's data types only. So unlike your Java, in Java we have the data types mainly of we categorize them the primitive data types. So we call them as a primitive data types, and the object or the advanced data types, like which are created from the objects. Okay, int, char, float, double. So all these are primitive data types. In Java. So in the same Java, if you are aware of the wrapper classes, you have integer class, you have char, you have float. Okay, so the first class, first letter is uppercase. We are also seeing. Okay, so these are corresponding wrapper classes in Java. Okay, but here Scala also we have the same data types: integer, char, float, double, long. All these data types are there in Scala as well. Now the difference between the Scala data types and Java data types is that you don't have a distinction for primitive data types which can be created without objects. So in order to create integers in Java, just specify int I equal to 10. You don't need to create an object. Whereas, let's say if you have to create string yes, you can create this way as well. Of course, you can give double quotes, so which in turn will get have a string object and will get assigned it to it. You can't create an object for primitive data types for integers, but for as well string, new string of, you can give something here. So that is creating an object and assigning them. So for int I equal to or int j equal to, you don't have new int because this is not a class, small int. If you want to make it as an object, you have to go for integer classes. New integer of 100. Take any parameter. Then this 100 will get assigned to this, if this is an integer type. Okay. So what I am trying to say is, in Java you have both primitive data types and as well as the wrapper classes introduced later in the later Java releases. But in Scala, everything is an object. We'll see int, float, double. int I equal to, here the variable declaration is bit different. I equal to new int, you can create this, meaning all these data types are also objects only, even the primitive data. There is no concept of primitive without object. Okay, so yeah, that is the difference that the Java programmers have to catch up. For others, it's simply same. You can consider it like you have these data types, char, byte, short, and they can be represented with this, and these are the sizes that take them in the background. Okay, so both numeric and non-numeric data types all are supported. And there are some operators which are not supported in Scala, but they are there in Java. Something like plus plus, minus minus. Plus plus to increment by 1. The same thing you can achieve plus equal to 1, minus equal to 1, that way. Okay. So before going into the details and examples of these things, so if we need to categorize these things, the hierarchy of the data types, the super type of all the data types, the super type is any. If you define any data type, you can assign any value to it. Under that any, we have two categories. One is a value type, and second one is reference types. So value types are something that you can immediately assign a value, meaning either your character, boolean, or any of the numeric types that we have seen, int, float, long, double, these things. Reference data types are like objects. So that any class that you create, for example, even the string is a class in Java, and as well as is a class in Scala, and any other class objects, and the complex data types which we call the collections, the same Java collections, list, set, all these things are available in Scala as well. We have a separate session on, we have separate slides and separate time allocated for us to discuss much more into collections, even in Scala. First, let's try to understand the different data types. That's enough. Okay. And if there is nothing to represent, you can even specify the nothing. And if you are not returning any value, so null and nothing, more or less similar to specifying there is nothing to return from a function, because nothing and null can't be used with variables. Generally, they can be a return types of your methods at max. Okay. Under this any, you have this AnyVal and AnyReference, right? And again, under AnyVal, you have seen the numeric types. Correct? The numeric types, the classes are these things: scalar, double, float, long, int, short, byte. These are the numeric classes or the data types that are available. This is the char and boolean and unit. Unit is also something that any value that can be, but if you are, it is equivalent to void in Java, if you are from Java background. If there is, and again, unit is not used with a variable declaration. It can be a return type of a method, but all these things can be a variable types. Okay. And in the collections, You can see the sequence, list, and option, all these things. We'll discuss much more on these things later. And coming to the string data type, in the underlying, if you see here, it is pointing to java.lang.string. For strings, we'll still be using same the Java-based string classes only. Okay. On top of that Java-based string classes, we have some extra rich features from Scala string-like classes that we'll discuss in another few slides. Okay. Yeah. And any, if you see here, non-numeric data types, some of the non-numeric data types here. So any is the root of all the data types in Scala. If you can specify that as type, you can assign any value. And any val, it can only take values, either these numeric types, char, boolean, or these things. And any reference can take the classes or the collections or string type. Okay. And nothing, the subclass of all types. This is the childest class, I can say. Okay. The null is the subclass of all any reference type signifying a null value. Char is just a Unicode character, true or false. The string, you can give a new string. And to declare the variables here in Scala, we use var command, var keyboard. Okay. So in order to declare any variable, so let's say var and variable name colon, either you can give space or even if you don't give space, that's fine. So space colon, it's data type. Okay. So this is where Java guys will get confused for some time. So they start giving string s equal to foo or something like that. So they will forget the syntax. Even I do the same kind of mistakes most of the times, because we got used to Java syntax. So that's where you try to give the same Java syntax and you'll see the problems. Now here, var space followed by variable name followed by colon, its data type, and its initialized value on right side of your assignment operator. And we have also constants. These are variables, anything that are declared with var are variables, and anything that are declared with val. Val is nothing but a constant in Scala, immutable variable. We call it as, so even though these things also comes under the variables section, we call them as immutable variable. So in English terms, if you see this statement, it's a contradictory, immutable and variable. Okay, but don't take it that way. And val or var, just specify if you don't have any initialization value, so you can just simply end it. If you do not assign any initial value to a variable, then even then it is valid, same like in Java. Okay.
Shiva.
Yes, Mamta.
Okay, I think for me it's too fast. Can you just go back 1 or 2 slides back?
Okay.
Yeah, 1 more slide if you don't mind. Yeah. So.
Yep.
value type and reference type. When sorry Shiva, and my little one is here. And if everything is
Hello. I think I lost your audio.
sorry, I was on mute. See, when everything is an object, so where is this value type and reference type? I was a bit confused here, because even you said that it's completely object oriented, and even this whatever we had primitive types like double, all these variables basically, double boolean, and it's still on the value type.
Correct. I got your question. Like, so you are telling that both are like objects only?
Yeah.
The double, float, all these are classes.
Mm-hmm.
So all these are also, okay, let me keep you on mute. I will explain it first. Okay. All these are classes only, and these are also classes only. But these can directly store the values. These are like, so this complex, you can take them as a complex types. String is nothing but a sequence of characters, an array of characters, right? And list is nothing but a collection of doubles, collection of floats, collection of longs, collection of ints. Sequence also, we can take it as a collection of this thing. So here value types meaning one single units that we give, right? So double can be 1000.5, 1000.05, float can be 10.50, long can be 10,000, int can be, this is one single value. Any val meaning they can store only one single value. Any of these things under reference types, these are like a bunch of values if you observe these in detail. So sequence, list, or any of these collection objects are nothing but a group of elements, and string is nothing but a group of things. So to categorize those two into differently, so even though they both are objects, so we have which the data types which can take one single value is AnyVal, and a reference, an object for multiple values is under reference types. Does that make sense, Mamta?
In a way, it's still like it is primitive, but only what I understood.
No, primitive in the sense the keyword primitive meaning you don't have object for that. The actual meaning of primitive. Okay. So similar to primitive, but still we'll be creating those data types with the help of the Scala classes, not the keywords, not just the primitive keywords.
And I had another quick, I don't know whether it is really related to this, because when we see this, the way the reference type are associated in the memory, like stack and in other places, right? Is it the same thing holds good here, or is it different?
Yes, same thing. The memory.
Okay, value type will be in a stack and reference type will be in the same thing, same concept here.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
And where is the date and date type? Where does
date
it
classes are there? You can consider them under reference.
Okay, it's a class. Okay.
Classes. It's a class. So since any other classes that comes, you can take it in the any reference.
And what about this unit is the only thing you said that it can be null return type. When it is a null return type, it's
unit is nothing but there is nothing to return. Then we define this as unit as a return type for methods. I will show some examples on them. Okay.
Okay, because I saw some in one of your slides null also,
Yep.
so I got confused between both.
Yep. Null is a subclass of all your reference types, and nothing is a subclass of all other data types. Meaning, it could be of AnyVal or it could be of any reference. There is nothing to return. Meaning, if your method is got some exception, there is nothing to return. And in that case, that return type will become the nothing. And you don't need to explicitly specify these things, these special data types. Your Scala will internally handle them.
Okay. And we don't have any exception handling and all those things, right? Do we have
No, we do have exception handling. We'll discuss.
Oh. Okay. No, okay, I got it. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. First start with the basics, and slowly you can master all these things. Okay. First, get used to define the strings, integers, and then we'll go to the collections, and then we can see the classes. And
Yeah. Because when I was going through these variables, so I got confused when you said class, and again with the way reference type and value type. That's where I stopped you. Sorry for that.
Yep. No problem. Okay. Yeah. Let me mute. Now, yeah, this is how we are able to define the variables. Let's see some of the variables getting declared there. The shell. Okay. So Control L will clear out the screen in Scala shell. Say where I, which is of type int, could be of 100. And if I reassign a value to it, let's say I is already declared above and 110. So now I is 110. If I declare value val j, which is of type integer, like let's say 500, this is defined. Now if I reassign this to j equal to, I made it 600. So I'm receiving an error message saying that reassignment to val. I'm trying to reassign a value to a reassign new value to a val kind of variable. Meaning this is a constant. Anything that is declared with val keyword are immutables. Once declared, declared. If I give val j equal to 600, am I reassigning or redeclaring? Yeah, some people ask me these kind of questions. That's fine. I'm showing this.
So when you say val is a constant, right?
Yep.
Val is a constant. So constant means you cannot reassign the value, or that value cannot be changed, basically.
Yes, correct.
Okay. And so when you are saying val j is equal to 600, because it's the same 600, is it taking because the value is same?
No. So
No,
here
so
I give 500. It took.
Then it cannot be constant, right? Or you are reassigning again.
That's why let me put you on mute. For you only. I'm showing you this example. I got similar kind of questions, so that's why I'm explaining this. Okay, let me complete this. Okay. Thing is, here you are reassigning. So you already declared a j with val j int 500. and that j equal to 600. So here in this statement, you know that j is already declared as a val, okay, and you are trying to reassign a new value to it. You are using this and you are trying to assign a new value to it. So, and assigning a new value to constant is not possible. Here in the shell, so what if you already use a j variable, j is already declared, okay, and in case in your program, in your Eclipse, if it is your Eclipse, you are not allowed to redeclare the same. Let's say val j int equal to 100, okay, and if I give j equal to 200, it will not allow me to do that. If you see the error message, so reassignment to val, the same error coming here, right? So if I try to give val j int equal to 300, so this time in the shell, so it is showing you the error messages. So j is already defined as value j, okay. So val j is already declared, right? That's the error message set. But in your Scala shell, if you start with val or anything that with val or var, it will freshly override this declaration. Declaration is gone. This is as good as you are redeclaring one more variable. Not sure whether you got it or
yeah, I got it, because it's a shell, right? It can be one.
Yeah, once you declare j, and I say you can never use j for any other purpose. That will not solve our purpose in shell, right? So that's why, yes, you are again telling that I am declaring a new variable j, that is a constant, and take this initial value. So it will start from this execution. So it will forget this value. Okay.
I got it. Because in Eclipse it was already defined. You cannot redefine because it's like assigning another value. So that error was correct.
Yes. Okay.
So I got it, because it's a shell here.
Yep.
You don't have the sequence or to really maintain that.
Yep. Correct.
Okay. Thanks, Shiva.
Okay. Yeah, this sometimes many people get confused that, so that's why I try to clarify. Okay.
Okay.
The next, next val, val and var difference we have seen, the constants and variables, and let's see. So some of the data types that we have seen there, right? Any reference. Generally, we don't use these things, but simply to just make you understanding that, let's say var a, which is of any type, if you can give 500, so 500 is a value, right? This is one single value I can take. So reference is like a collection of objects, a collection of values, right? Mainly the collections, classes, and strings are the subclasses of the reference type. Now 500 is a value, so it will not take that. So the result of an implicit conversion must be more specific than any reference. Either you can give a val, since this is a value, or if you want to be even more specific, you can give int, you can give, let's say you can give float, then it became 500.0, this way. Okay, so if it is in that hierarchy, if it falls under value types, value part of it, you can declare them as AnyVal. If it falls under this wing, you can declare them under any reference. If you're not sure under which it can fall, you can always define any variable with any type. Okay. Next, yeah, the functions. I didn't talk. We didn't talk about the syntax for function. Let me keep this aside for some time. We'll discuss that later. Okay. And again, the same thing. Like, you can only use nothing if the method never returns, meaning it cannot complete normally by returning. It could throw an exception. This thing also exceptional scenario, rare scenario. We'll discuss this later.